Alright guys, this video is going to walk through the process of setting up our LDR circuit. And so what we want to make sure is you've done a check over of each of the components that you need for your soldering station are there. So we've got our iron, we've got our safety glasses on the fume extractor, along with our side cutters sitting on the top. We've got our helping hand sitting there, and you've gone and collected the solder rail with a damp cloth or the brass from your teacher. The other things you should have if you're set up and ready to go is you've got your wires and any of the componentry that you need to be able to work with. So I've got each of those there ready to go. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn my soldering iron on. There's a switch at the back and I've got him set at about 380. Okay, so while I'm doing that, if you haven't already, I'm going to just remove the ends of those ready to be able to solder, because the first thing we're doing with any of our wires before we actually try and solder them together is we want to be able to tine the ends. So tining the ends basically is give them a little bit of a twist, and then we want to be able to add a little bit of solder to those so that they are easy to be able to connect later. So the easiest way to do that is I'm going to put him in one of my helping hands a little bit closer so it doesn't bounce around too much. I'm going to have a look at my end. He probably needs a bit of a clean to start off with. You should see a little bit of steam. You give him a moment after that. So you'll notice that the end of the solderer should have a little bit of solder on it. If it doesn't, we need to add a little bit before we start. So we should be able to as we go through. So obviously you've got your safety glasses on already, and you'll see that smoke going up. So that's ready to go. So when I go to heat something up, I'm going to put my soldering iron underneath, and then I add a little bit of solder from the top. And what I should see is that will start to adhere because I had the temperature of the part up. I removed the solder, and now that end is ready to go. So I'm going to then repeat that for each of my 3 wires. I'm only going to need one end for each of these for the moment. So heat from bottom, add a little bit of solder to it so it's ready to be able to use. And that's probably a little bit long, so I'm going to trim him down. Probably only about 8 mil is nice. Too much more than that, and you start to have a lot of exposed wire, which makes it a challenge when you need to try and start doing more wires around. So what you've noticed is I've actually forgotten to turn my soldering iron on. The fume extractor. Really important we do that so that we pull those fumes away from us. Notice that anytime I'm putting my soldering iron down, it's going straight back into the holder completely, so that hot end isn't going to be touching anywhere. So now I've got my components there ready to go. What I need to be able to do is I actually need to time the ends of these guys as well, so that when they attach, that's good. But if I have a look at what I need to do for this circuit, I'm going to be having our resistor going off one leg, so this is something you should have in plan. My power on one leg, and then these two. So he's going to be coming up above the resistor and he's below. So that's kind of the setup that I'm going for. Now, because I'm going to try and keep this a little bit neat, and I'm going to actually be using it on my smart house in this case, is I'm going to put him in there first so that I can start soldering on the edge of those ones there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab that on one of the arms. I'm going to snip him a bit shorter, or if you want to, you can kind of twist those together. So by twisting them together, you're kind of almost preparing them so it's easier to be able to solder them together. So it's got a few twists there. Notice I've got it like that. I can then again hold him, say maybe there and there, and I'm going to solder that together. again, from underneath, solder on, let him heat up a little bit. Again, less is more in this case, so I don't need to drown it. That's now got plenty of it hold together. I'm going to clean those ends up, so just snip the excess off, and that part is ready to go. So the other thing I can do while I've got that one together is I'm going to add, so I'll use my other helping hand here to be able to add my wire into there as well. So I'll bring him up. Maybe I'll go underneath, ready for him. And just get it set up so that when I adhere it, it's nice and easy. So sometimes these guys can be a little bit of a fiddle, so you can see that I'm sort of fighting with it a little bit to get it in the right position. So that is normal. It is frustrating, but it is normal. So I think I'm happy with that about there. So same deal, I'm going to get my solder from underneath, and then trying to work those together. So I've got enough solder there, I just need to try and hold it in place until it cools. So that one there doesn't look too bad. Okay, so now if I have a look, I've got that one there. The next piece I need to do is I'm going to add my power to this side, so I'm going to grab him there, move one of these guys back out, there's my timed end, and I'm probably going to bring that even closer to this, so I want him right over and together. So I'm pretty happy with that. So again, I'm going to get my solder ready to go, heating from underneath. Once they start to heat up, they will then take the solder and then just a little coat, solder away first, give it a moment, and I should be able to see that that is now attached. So I can trim that arm down. Okay, so there's, and I did the wrong wire on that one. So I can actually fix that up fairly easily. So if I take that over here, I'm going to just take my solder to that piece. That'll heat back up and I can take that off. So if you notice that it's starting to get a little bit blackened or browned around that tip, you can give it a nice little clean off over here. And then just add a little bit more solder, just ever so gently, just a little bit to give it a bit of a coating. Really important part of keeping that tip clean and unoxidized. So if it's sitting there heating for too long, it will damage that. So let's try that again. I need my power on the other side and ground over here. So let's set that up. It's looking close. If you've got a little bit of an extension, you could even hold that in place there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now we'll rinse and repeat. I'm going to heat from the bottom, adheres to both of them. Okay, so now let that cool a moment, and now I've got it the correct way I need it. You got to be careful adding too much heat for too long, because some components will actually be destroyed by doing that. So we're making sure that we're taking our time setting it up so that we don't have that. So next one I'm going to do is I'm going to add my black to the last piece here. So my tined end, and because I've got that little bit extra tail that I am going to cut off, I'm going to adhere there. So if you find it easier, you might find giving it a couple twists first, they kind of lock in, can be helpful. Getting it set up right first makes your life a lot easier. So I'm pretty happy with that. And now we go again. Heating from below. And once you've got enough solder there, you can kind of just nudge him in the right direction to cool it down. And that's looking good. So the last little bit I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim him off. And then I should have my circuit ready to go. So what I could do with that one is I would probably go and check that it's all doing what it needs to. But otherwise, that's my circuit done. If I'm ready, I'm going to, the last thing I do before I turn this all off and let someone else do it, is I'm going to give that tip a little bit of a clean, make sure there's no excess sort of oxidization, the blackened bit around that tip, and I always want to add just a little bit of solder to help cover it and protect the tip from oxidization when it cools. So you can see I've got a bit of a bubble on that. I'm going to turn him off. I'll probably put him away so I'm not reaching over the solder. Turn him off. Turn him off. I will, if there's someone else coming after me, I'll leave that rolled up. So you can see it's a nice neat roll, ends there, and I can get the next person on.